This is the 2020 BMW X3M Competition, and it's the performance SUV I wish BMW had been building since day one. It's the perfect size. It's expensive, but not ridiculous. It has amazing numbers, and I am so glad it's finally on the market. And today, I'm going to explain why. I've borrowed this X3M Competition from Crevier BMW, which is located here in Orange County in Southern California. Crevier sells more BMWs than any BMW dealership in North America, and they've just gotten the X3M, which has just started to go on sale. Now, if you don't know this car, a brief overview. For years, BMW has only offered a high-performance version of its midsize X5 and X6 SUVs. They were called the X5M and X6M, and they were fine if you wanted a high-performance SUV, but I never understood why BMW didn't make a high-performance X3. It's smaller, it's lighter, it's nimbler, it would be faster. It only makes sense. And so finally, 15 years after the X3 first came out, it's here, and it has 500 horsepower. Yes, that's right, this little BMW SUV has 500 horsepower. Now, this is the competition version. The regular one has 470 horsepower. The X3M starts around $72,000, which is expensive, but nowhere near as expensive as the X5M, which has a base price of over $100,000. And yet, they have basically the same performance. They both do 0 to 60 in around 4 seconds. As a result, I'm thrilled that this is here, a more approachable BMW performance luxury SUV. So today I'm going to take you on a little tour of the X3M and show you a few of my favorite quirks and features. Then I'm going to get it out on the road and drive it, and then I'm going to give it a Doug score. Alright, it's time to dive into the quirks and features of the X3M, and since this is a more Doug review, I'm not going to get comprehensive and go through everything, but rather just a few notable items I found poking around the car for a few minutes. And I'm going to start with the pathway lighting. When you're approaching this vehicle and you unlock the doors, you can see these lights up here. These are over on the passenger side, and BMW calls this pathway lighting. It's supposed to light your path to the door. The same thing happens on the driver's side. Both go on simultaneously, and it looks like your path is illuminated. That's where you're supposed to walk to get to your door to enter your car. Now, when you follow the pathway and get to your door, there's some odd hidden badging in this car. On the inside of the door panel, you can see there's this little X in the corner, which is kind of strange. It's even more strange that it's covered up when the door is closed by the end of the dashboard. So it's like, okay, I don't know why they did that, but they did. Fine. That wouldn't be so strange, but then in the back, there's another little X in the corner of the door panel. Why are all these X's here? This one does not get covered up when the door is closed, so rear passengers can always look at their X. But maybe the strangest one is on the structure of the car itself. On the B-pillar, it says X3. Why? To remind you that this is an X3? To remind the people in the factory, hey, this is an X3, don't put X5 doors on it? I don't really understand, but a couple of little hidden badging items in here. Now, speaking of badging, my very favorite piece of badging in this car, and a lot of modern M cars, is in the seats. When you open the door, the little M logos in the seats light up, and that is just one of the coolest effects, something they absolutely don't have to do to run a wiring and a light into the seats, but they do it anyway. It's a cool piece of attention to detail. It makes getting into the car feel just a little bit more exciting. And speaking of getting into the car, let's talk about some of this car's M features, because this is a new thing for the X3, having a high-performance M version. One of my favorite items that comes along with having an M car, these red buttons on the steering wheel. These are to activate your M mode. You can set your own M modes, and you can configure all sorts of different performance aspects of the car, your throttle response, your chassis, your steering input, that kind of thing. And then you can set your own M modes as M1, and M2. And then when you want to quickly switch on one of your M modes, you don't have to go into the infotainment screen and find your mode. You just tap this thumb button and instantly you're in your configured M mode. And there are 2 thumb buttons, so you can have 2 modes easily accessible in case you have one for like twisty road driving and another for track use or whatever you want. It's a really cool idea to have your performance driving settings instantly pop up the moment you tap one of those buttons. And next up, another interesting M-related item in this car would be the exhaust. There's a little button in the center console here that you can press to turn on the exhaust, put it in sport mode, and when you do, it has a fantastic sound, especially compared to normal X3s. Take a listen. Of course, this car has other benefits compared to normal X3s. One of them is the wheels. You can see these wheels are a lot bigger than what you would get in a standard X3, as you'd expect from an M car. They're larger, more special, cooler looking. Same deal with the gear lever. This is similar to a traditional BMW gear lever, but it's an M gear lever. It's a little sportier looking. And it has a little switch on the top of it that allows you to dial in your shifting speed. So if you want really quick shifts, you can press that little switch and get them. Or if you want kind of slower, more comfortable shifts, you can press the button the other way and get those too. But it's nice to see that configurable. But of course, the most impressive X3M item is under the hood. You can see this car is turbocharged 6-cylinder. In the regular X3M, 470 horsepower, 443 pound-feet of torque. In this one, the competition, the horsepower number jumps up to 500, and the torque figure stays the same. The regular X3M does 0 to 60 in 4.1. This will do it in 4 seconds flat, which is a truly crazy number to be getting out of a BMW X3. And next up, a few other interesting quirks worth noting. One is in the cargo area. First off, the cargo area, pretty reasonably sized, especially considering this vehicle's performance numbers. It really is a sports car on the track, but you can also use it for family duty. But anyway, one cool thing about the cargo area is the cargo cover. You can have it on and then it's a cargo cover, or you can lift up the floor and install it underneath the floor to kind of keep it out of the way. This is cool because a lot of people take their cargo covers, take them off, and then forget about them and lose them. But in this car, you have a place to keep it, so you won't lose it if you ever want to use it later. And next up, another interesting item in the cargo area, there's a little latch back here that you can use to fold down the back seats. This car doesn't have power folding back seats like some, but you pull that latch, they go down, and then you can load larger items into the cargo area, which is nice and convenient. And finally, we move on to the back seat of the X3M, and I wanted to sit back here to illustrate that it's actually reasonably large back here. I have the front seat set where I would sit, and I'm pretty tall. Usually I can't sit behind the seat in that position unless it moves forward, but in this car, I actually can. My knees are right up against the seat, but I can get back here. It's not really that uncomfortable, and of course, if you turn a little or spread out your legs, it's even easier. So it's a reasonably large back seat considering that this is, after all, a compact SUV. It's good packaging back here. All right, driving the X3M. This thing is so quick. I love how this drives. I've driven the X4M before. I just love the size and performance of this car. For years I said if there was an X3M, it would be the perfect BMW performance SUV. I don't know why it took them so long, but it's here, and I'm so glad that it is. Sitting at a stoplight here feels like a nice, luxurious, high-quality car, and I mean high quality, not like, I mean, the regular X3 is a very nice car, and they're selling very well, but this feels a little bit nicer than that. Nice materials basically everywhere, only a little bit of kind of cheaper plastic. But the real story here is undoubtedly the performance. First off, it sounds awesome. It just sounds meaty and aggressive and angry, and it's just so fast. And most importantly, the steering is so precise. It's not an M2 or an M2 Competition or an M4, but it's not as far off as you'd think given that it's an SUV. The steering is just fantastic. Instant steering response. It's great. It's just great. I love that BMW finally made an X3M. This is the segment. I love these things. The thing is, it's not incredibly impressive in terms of, oh, sporty, fast speed. You know, a lot of BMWs are fast, and handling, a lot of BMWs handle well. The real story here is that it's an SUV, and it does all this so well. And the X5M has done this for a long time. The last couple X5Ms have all been great. Good handlers, great all-around cars. But the thing that really sets this one apart is it's just little. And so as a result, you can maneuver quicker. You can go through corners faster. It feels better. It feels tighter. If you need an SUV and you're really distraught about the idea of giving up your performance car, there's no fast wagons really on the market, not at this price point. This will give you the thrill that you want. And so that's the BMW X3M. There's also an X4M with a sloped rear roofline that's designed to look like one of those coupe SUVs, but I don't really get into that. I prefer the X3M. It's more practical and it's less expensive. But either way, the point is the same. It's finally here. There's finally a small, fast BMW SUV, and I'm thrilled with it. And now it's time to give the X3M a Doug score. And the Doug score is here. The X3M Competition is at the very top of the list of fast luxury SUVs, tying the Alfa Stelvio Quadrifoglio and the Jeep Trackhawk, which is an amazing company to be in. Both of those score a bit higher in the weekend categories, but the X3M is nicer on the inside and more advanced than the Jeep and the Alfa, so it does better overall. The X3M also beats out the M2 Competition. Obviously the M2 is more fun, but the X3M is more practical, and the X3 isn't as far behind for fun as you might think.